Are you a fan of the Sysadmin Podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Sysadmin Podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Sysadmin Podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Welcome, folks, to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Nate, and I'm joined by Uncle Marc and a special guest, Ed Skoudis. Hi, Ed.
Hey, it's good to see you.
So if we've got Ed on, it must mean that we're getting close to the holiday season, and he's got some fun things to talk about in the world of Santa Claus and maybe Elf U. I don't know what the theme is this year, but we're going to be talking about a holiday hack.
Yay.
So, how you been, Ed?
I've been good. Well, I mean, the whole COVID world kind of sucks and everything, but that said, compared to how things could be, things are good. And, work is good. My coworkers are wonderful to be with and work with. I'm very fortunate and thankful for that. But I do miss travel. I never thought I would say that. I miss travel. I miss getting out and seeing friends in the industry. So
yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not a big one for travel either, but even I miss it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just as content to stay at home, and I've been joking since the beginning of this that this is the battle I was born to fight. Because I'm definitely a homebody, but even I would just love to be able to get out, even just take the family out for a day trip somewhere.
Yeah.
It gets boring being stuck at home.
As much as I hate United Air, I kind of want to be cursing them out as I'm sitting in Newark waiting for my
Yes.
flight that's now been delayed because they're incompetent. Because that means that there's some Red Hat or other Linux customer visit or seminar or something on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
I do miss
Yeah.
that.
So I guess little did Dave Kennedy know that when he canceled DerbyCon, he was going to bring on a plague.
Yeah, really.
Plague upon all of your houses.
He's like, I'll cancel my con, and then you'll see.
Yep.
All right. So I guess for the benefit of those listeners who maybe don't know who Ed is, Ed, you want to give yourself a brief sort of high-level introduction here?
Sure. So I'm a penetration tester. I'm an instructor with the SANS Institute. I have a company called CounterHack, and what CounterHack does is we do penetration testing, general security consulting, expert witness work for breach cases and things like that. And we also build cyber ranges for people to, increase their cybersecurity skills. We have a bunch of commercial ones that we create for the SANS Institute, but there's a free one that we create for SANS every year called the Holiday Hack Challenge, and we're like 21 years into this, and it's getting close. It is less than a month away. So
Less than a month away. That's awesome.
Crunch time right now.
You guys, it was you I saw, right? Gave a talk. I think it was even at DerbyCon that we were just talking about. You have a like a miniaturized scale model cyber range, don't you? Where there's like physical.
Yep, Cyber City. Yeah, it's a 1/87th scale city, and there's a little train. There's buildings. There's all kinds of stuff that moves around, and it's controlled by real industrial control system equipment. So we have actual PLCs that are associated with power distribution, water control, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's Cyber City.
So if I hack Cyber City, I can actually make the trains run backwards and make the toilet water flow out of the poor residents' sinks and stuff like that.
Well, not the toilet water thing, but the train. The goal there is to derail the train. Now you can poison the water because you can change, what's being put in for purification and such. So you can poison the water, but the water's not wet because the electronics don't like that. What the water is it's plastic with lights shining on it.
I see.
Yeah.
Still,
Good
it
enough.
sounds like a good way to practice being an evil overlord.
Right. We did try
Yeah.
to write the various scenarios so you're trying to stop evil from happening.
Oh.
Well,
But
look,
can you really stop evil if you do not understand it?
there you go. There you go.
Right.
It's often used by the U.S. military, so I definitely want to keep them on the good side. So,
Hmm.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
yep. So, for example, in the derail a train scenario, you actually need to derail a train. The reason you need to derail it is there's a dirty bomb on it, and they
Ah.
want to drive it into a residential center and cause problems. So you just derail the train, and that's a much safer way. So we had to kind of think through all these different scenarios to try to make them positive, and not evil.
Right. So like, hey, I figured out how I can make, a controller that will derail a train. Now, how do we turn that into a training exercise that doesn't
Yep.
sound like we're just trying to murder people?
That's exactly it. Yes. And we were for the most part successful.
Yeah.
There's another scenario there where you can control the traffic lights using an antique protocol called Modbus, which is actually widely used to control traffic lights. And all right, so how do you write a scenario there? Well, we did is the
Right.
bad guys. What's that?
I said, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the bad guys get in there and they turn all the traffic lights green simultaneously. So that's mayhem, and you have to get in there and fix it. You got to set it all straight again.
I saw this in a movie once. There were rollerblades, and
Yes.
Was that like a bad 80s teen movie or something? Or you're talking
no, it was the movie Hackers from the 90s.
Oh,
yeah.
Hackers, that's right.
With a young Angelina Jolie.
I've seen that movie entirely too many times. Well, I don't know if there is such a thing as too many. I've seen it a lot of times. How's that?
Have you ever hacked a Gibson?
No. Is that even based on anything true?
I think they made it up. But it is interesting, this whole idea of having to get into things that have been screwed up and fix them so that evil doesn't happen. That's actually a big part of this year's Holiday Hack Challenge. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit of ideas. I haven't told anybody else that yet, but the fact is you're going to have to fix some things that some bad person has screwed up.
That's pretty cool. I made a career out of that before I joined Red Hat. As a sysadmin, I was, the guy to make sure that my systems didn't get broke, and when they did, I had to fix them.
We now get to give customers advice on how to not do that.
That's it's a better place to be.
Picture, what percentage of discussions with sysadmins have this phrase in the sysadmins vernacular? You did what?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's for as terrible of a day as it usually turned into, I actually looked forward almost to the days when it was some tricky hacker has gotten into something and I need to figure out what they did, what they got, right? I mean, it's just a fun challenge, right? You don't really want it to happen, but when it happens, it's just a fun challenge, right? And it sounds like, things like Holiday Hack are perfect for that because it's low stakes. There's no there's no jobs on the line, no people's private data, no whatever, no safety.
Me, Nate? The entire holiday season is on the line, right?
Good point.
To save the holidays.
Good point.
Destroyed.
It's a good thing Holiday Hack draws such a high caliber of people.
Yes, yeah.
They save it every year.
Yeah, last year we had 17,000 people play, and this year, because of lockdowns and COVID and such, we're expecting more. We're kind of hoping to hit 30,000 this year, and people play from all around the world. It's just fascinating because it's Holiday Hack, so there's Santa Claus and there's elves and all that kind of stuff. But we have people playing from Japan. We have people from South Africa that play. There's a big contingent of folks in Saudi Arabia that play Holiday Hack. And it's just, people of all ages too. I mean, there's kids as young as 7 or 8 years old that'll play Holiday Hack.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Look, maybe we'll get above 30,000 this year.
Yeah. Well, during Security Awareness Month this year, Red Hat Red Hat ran a small CTF for just local for employees. Yeah. And the folks who participated, we were just chatting in a GChat group after the fact, and I brought up Holiday Hack, and it seemed like there were a number of people that were actually interested. So maybe you'll see a small group of Red Hatters walking around in Holiday Hack this year.
I hope so. We try to write it for everyone. I mean, it's family friendly, so if you've got some kids and you want to start teaching them, sysadmin stuff as well as cybersecurity stuff. It's great for that. But then some of, the most talented hackers in the world play this every year too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole gamut. I mean, we have some challenges that are really easy. We have some challenges that are really, really hard. And, we just try to make it fun. And the other thing is all the challenges we put in there, we try to make them real world. I mean, they're all dressed up. So it's Santa Claus and the elves and, bad guys taking care of things.
This happens all the time, Ed.
Yeah, where's mom? Where's mom?
Yep.
There's a quota. There's a quota of Nick's family barging into his office every episode.
That's Nate, not Nick. I don't know who named Nick, but that's happened before.
Oh, it must be the Saint Nick.
There you
that
go.
must be it.
It's holiday hack.
Well played, sir. Well played. Well played.
I don't know where that came from. I'm old. We'll go with that too.
Okay, we'll go with that. So anyway, you mentioned 16,000 people last year. How does that compare to like the year before, or the year before that even? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
if you go back to so we were kind of capped out around 9 or 10,000 in 2015, 2016, 2017. And then in 2018 we jumped up to 13,000. And then in 2019 we jumped up to 17,000, and now we're hoping to kind of go to 30. So what happened? I think it was the addition of Kringlecon. So Kringlecon is I guess fundamentally the question is, what is Holiday Hack Challenge, right? I mean,
that's a good thing to answer, right?
I'd like to know that. Yeah, because can I want to front load a thought here.
Sure.
One of my hobby jobs is I'm an assistant scout master.
Yep.
And we have scouts that are anywhere from, in our program, like 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, all the way into high school.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are kind of nerdy, right?
Yeah.
So the question I'm going to be asking you is, what actual skills do you realistically need to bring to this to have fun with it? Because we are right now trying to come up with, we usually do a gaming day during Christmas break every year.
Yeah.
And because of COVID, that's going to be hard. But I'm wondering if we could maybe integrate Holiday Hack into some sort of a fun event for my troop.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I think that'd be really cool. I know there's a lot of schools that do this, high schools, even junior high schools. There's a lot of companies that do it as well, where they'll have, a group of 5 or 10 or 15 employees that just set aside a day and play Holiday Hack. Government agencies do that. I know there's several teams from the U.S. Army and Air Force, Navy, I believe the Marine Corps and Coast Guard also have some teams that play. So I think, Mark, you'll really like it. It'll resonate with you. But the idea is, so what is it? I mean, fundamentally, it's a series of cybersecurity challenges and, frankly, sysadmin challenges that you have to solve. But we wrap it all up in this package of a video game. So you have an avatar, and everybody else has an avatar too, and you kind of hop around in this game, and you find assets. You talk with Santa Claus. You just click on him, and he starts giving you messages and such. And there's this plot, this vast plot to destroy the holiday season. You have to solve these technical challenges by figuring out, how to deal with them, and then the plot kind of unfolds, and you have to stop a nefarious supervillain from destroying the holiday. So you've got the video game, you've got the challenges, you've got the social aspect, because you can work as teams, you can chat. There's a chat system inside the game. There's a conference that's associated with it. It's a virtual conference. We were virtual conferencing before virtual conferencing was cool. So we call it Kringlecon, and this is going to be Kringlecon 3 French hens. Last year was Kringlecon 2 turtle doves. We figure we can milk this for another, 9 or so of them.
At least.
So there's a conference, so you can see these talks. You just go into the conference room and you watch a talk from, various speakers. There's a custom album of music that I commission every year from some of the greatest musicians in the hacker world. And we're going to have Count Ninjala is coming back. He's a great DJ that does amazing mixes. We're going to have Dual Core rapper, the rap group. They're going to be doing some great stuff for us. And a couple of other surprising twists there for music. So we released that album, and so it's all part of this big package, and it runs from the second week of December until the first business Monday of January. Now we keep it up year round. You can actually play last year's right now if you want to practice or get an idea of what it's like. Just go to holidayhackchallenge.com. But for the actual competition where there's prizes, it runs from second week of December to January 4th. But to get to Marc's point, what do you have to bring to this from a knowledge perspective? It's designed for all levels. So if you're brand new and just trying to figure out how this kind of stuff works, there's going to be puzzles and challenges for you to solve. But if you're like a seasoned sysadmin or cybersecurity professional, there's going to be stuff that will challenge you as well. And we indicate very easily. You can see which ones are the easier ones. So you start with the easier ones and advance your way up. But, we have a challenge. I'll tell you this right now. TMUX. You guys must know of TMUX, and right?
Yep.
Good stuff, right? Sysadmin helps you out a lot. There's a challenge associated with TMUX this year, right? And it's one of our easier ones because, you got to start somewhere. We have, challenges going from that. The way it's set up is we have what we call terminal challenges. And there in the video game, you just hop up to a little terminal, you click on it, and then we use this really cool technology called WEDI. That's web, TTY. And it pops up in your browser, a terminal, command terminal. So you can start typing things. And there's an ELF that you can click on standing next to it. And the ELF needs you to solve something inside the terminal. And these are usually sysadmin issues. So So you go in there, you help the ELF solve the sysadmin issue. And we build those things, these terminal challenges, so they take maybe 5 to 15 minutes to solve. But what they do, when you solve that, the ELF is so thankful, the ELF starts giving you hints about the overall objectives. And the overall objectives are those bigger things. An objective might take you as little as 10 or 15 minutes. Some of the objectives might take an hour or 2 or 3. And they're the ones that get progressively very hard. So the terminal ones, nice, simple little popcorn sysadmin challenges and learn stuff. But that gives you the hints. You earn the hints from the elves, which then lets you solve the bigger challenges. And the bigger challenges this year, we've got all kinds of cool stuff, ranging from web application vulnerabilities, crypto issues. There's just some really, really cool new challenges that the team has created there. You're going to see some very important protocols that maybe you don't get a chance to see all that often, but they're super important for controlling critical infrastructures, let's just say. So there's lots of cool things there. And our whole goal is to help people learn. It is, yes, it's competitive in some sense, but the focus is on having fun and learning. The story always has some twists and turns so that stuff happens that you don't expect. We try to make it really whimsical and sort of magical. In fact, you're going to see some really, really cool magic in this year's. But we do try to make it fun, and fun for all ages too. While it might sound very kiddie-like, I think an adult would like to get a good laugh out of it too. So
I think nerds tend to be whimsical themselves, most nerds anyway. So Super Original Recipe, which is now making me hungry for some delicious chicken, is asking in the YouTube chat, Ed, have you considered Kubernetes challenges? I've always wondered about what sort of difficulties there are in creating that type of challenge. A cluster seems tough to replicate for all players.
Absolutely. We did look at it. We wanted to have a Kubernetes challenge this year, but we've got to come up with some better ways to scale that in an affordable fashion, and with some breaks on it too. Because if you have 30,000 people trying to do stuff in Kubernetes on your Google Cloud account, suddenly you have no money left, right? You're giving it away for free. So we did look at it this year. It's not going to be in there this year, maybe next year. But we did look and try to think of how we could do it in a way that gives people good experience, but that doesn't potentially cost us like a huge amount of money.
$1 billion.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
because then you'd have to be evil and hack a bank, and that would totally it's the spirit of being a good penetration tester.
Now, to that end, people say this all the time, and it makes me really happy. They say if you want to do something truly nefarious in the cyber world, like some big hack that you're planning on, you should do it the day we launch Holiday Hack, because all the people that could investigate your hack, they're all working on our stuff, so they're not looking anymore. You see? So maybe I shouldn't be so happy that people say that, but
oh no,
all the eyes turn to Holiday Hack, so that's your chance to go and commit cybercrime.
So another question from chat here. This came in through Twitch. In case you're unaware, Ed, we're multi-streaming now. We go to Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. So anyway, J-Scar asks, for those that are new to playing, what type of hardware do you need to play?
Anything with a reasonable system that you bought over the last 3 or 4 years. So nothing fancy, and it's just it's all run in your browser. So
I
everything's
imagine you want a keyboard. Like playing it on a tablet's probably not ideal.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to type. It will render
as Linus intended.
Yeah, it will render and run in your phone and your tablet. But that said, the virtual keyboards there are not very good for doing significant work.
Right, and I know in previous years there were things where you had almost like an offline piece where you had to download something and hit it with some kind of a tool.
Yep.
And
we still have some of that.
Yeah.
We're increasingly moving to everything just online and in the browser, but there are some skills you need to learn where you're going to download a bit of firmware, or you're going to download a file for forensics analysis or something like that. So we don't want to remove that entirely because it's important skills to have, right? But that said, if we can give you a user interface into some asset that's online, we are trying to do that as much as we can. Yeah.
So how much of it, and I realize this could be difficult to quantify, how much of it is, before the show we were talking about playing adventure games, right?
Yeah.
How much of it is like a fake terminal that basically is running some clever scripting, and how much of it's like you're legitimately hacking?
You're legitimately hacking. I mean, all of it.
Yeah, if those are fake terminals, you did a really good job. You literally get a shell.
Yeah, you do get a shell. So, and it's a really cool technology stack that we're using. So again, we're using this WebTTY thing, which is WebTTY. You're going through that to get to a Docker image, right?
Docker.
Yep. And then the Docker image is being, hosted underneath by Debian, which is being configured and pushed via Ansible, all running on Google Cloud. These Docker terminals through WebTTY are just beautiful in the browser, and they're full color terminals. They can even support emojis, which is kind of fun too. So we're trying to sprinkle those things around. Also, there's a lot of message of the day kind of holiday graphics and stuff that pop up when you launch these terminal windows. So
little emojis of candy canes and
candy canes, snowflakes. Yep.
Yeah, I mean they're fun, and it's like every single one of them goes along with some kind of a story. You talk to an elf, the elf tells you like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot my password. Can you help me break into this encrypted archive or whatever?" Right? Yeah. And then your task is go to the terminal and do the thing they've asked you to do. So it's I just the way you guys integrate this stuff and you put the story around it. It's not just a bunch of challenges. It's it's not just here's a list of things to try to get done. There's story around it. There's a plot. There's a video game for crying out loud. It's a lot of fun.
It's pretty
so how much? How do I want to ask this one? How much vendor specific knowledge would there be as opposed to general open source knowledge? In other words, would I need to have a deep understanding of a particular vendor's technology, such as probably not VMware, but that example is just kind of springing to my head.
So we try to base as much as possible on free open source stuff that you can readily learn on your own. Now, one challenge last year, and they're coming back this year, was created by Splunk. And Splunk is, great technology, great company. They did create a challenge for us, but I even told the Splunk folks, hey, your challenge has to be solvable outside of Splunk. So in other words, yes, they can use your tool to solve it, but you have to write the challenge in such a way that people could use other tools to solve it as well.
Does Splunk have an open source variant or no? It's totally closed.
Not open source, but there is a free limited version of Splunk. You can only get so many logs per day. But I did say there has to be a free open source way of figuring out the solution to the challenge. But that's the only one that falls into that category where there is a commercial piece of technology in there. But it's so widely used. So many organizations have access to Splunk, and they do such a high quality job that we had them do one last year. They're doing one this year. It's one of the 12 objective challenges in the thing. Gotcha. So one of the 12.
But even if I'm not familiar with Splunk, I should be able to crack the challenge using dirty hippie tools.
Dirty hippie tools, absolutely. And And if you want to learn Splunk, remember there's going to be elves there. If you help them solve their sysadmin problems, they will give you hints on how to use Splunk to solve things.
Nice. Oh, I don't have any objection to Splunk. I've never been the Splunk guy in my organization.
Yeah.
It was never in my swim lane.
Yeah. So you could either, use the open source tools to do it, or if you want to put Splunk more in your swim lane, you could solve it with the hints from the elves.
And I assumed open source, right? But
Yep.
that's fantastic. Obviously, as Nate and I are both Red Hatters, see Nate, not Nick.
Yep.
And long before Red Hat, I was involved with open source. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, we really do. There's some Windows here and there because that's just a factor of life.
This is a reality, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
There is some Windows stuff, but you don't need a Windows machine yourself. Because there's a lot of people that don't want to buy it or don't have it. Especially, this is worldwide. So there's people in other countries, maybe very poor countries, that have, free open source operating systems because that's what they can get. And we do think about that a lot. We want to be universally accessible to the extent that we can be from people of all income levels globally. So we don't want to have somebody say, oh, you got to spend some money and set up a server, or you got to, get a cloud account somewhere to do something. This should all be completely free. Yes, you have to bring some hardware. But besides that, and the hardware
normally easy though.
Yeah. Right? And we
Right?
don't want the hardware to be like smoking fast, latest, greatest stuff. We're trying to make it run 60 frames per second in 3 or 4 or 5-year-old laptops.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great. So moving along to the platform, which we've talked about quite a bit now. I'm kind of curious because I don't know if we covered this last time you were on, but you guys you've basically designed your own web game to create this world in. How did that go? Like, did you find some game developers to bring in, or did you guys just learn this from scratch? Did you have some expertise when you brought it in?
So we have we started doing the video game piece in 2015, and in 15 and 16 we used BrowserQuest, which is a free open source video game platform that runs primarily in the browser with Node.js on the back end. And we used that and kind of learned it, but we kind of hit its limits. We wanted to be able to tell more complex stories. So in 2017, we started experimenting with developing our own game engine, with React managing the user interface, and then interacting, using Redux with the back end. It's all done over a WebSocket. And we did 2017 kind of as an experiment. And then in 2018 and 19, we kind of really rolled this thing into production. So again, it's those Debian bases with a lot of Docker stuff on it. And we've implemented, requests come in via the WebSocket. We've got RabbitMQ as a message bus. We've got, it's about 8 or 10 microservices that deal with things as they come in on the message bus. We're using Redis as a data store to handle all of that. And we're very, very careful on what happens client side versus server side.
But why?
There are many issues. Remember, we're trying to make sure we're not taking too many resources from the client.
Right.
But that said, Google Compute on the back end costs money. So we got to be careful we're not taking too much on the server side. So we're dishing it out. But then there's the cybersecurity piece of this.
Never trust the client.
Never trust the client.
Right.
But,
especially with this audience.
That's exactly right. But here's the deal. You will see for some of our challenges, we purposely put too much trust in the client, and you have to find that and abuse it. You see? So there's a lot of, kind of thought that goes on there for performance, for cost, our own costs, but also from a security perspective. There's certain things that we don't want you to manipulate in the game, and therefore they need to be tracked on the server. Then there's other things we want you to kind of mess around with, and that all gets pushed to the client, and you need to start digging through that. So it's fun. We're not using Kubernetes on our own server side this year, but we're experimenting with it. So we'll be using it probably next year. And then, like we said, we'd like to have a challenge based on it, but we're not there yet. But we've been doing some pen tests in Kubernetes. It is a really fascinating space with a lot of common misconfigurations. So we definitely are going to start using it ourselves in next year's challenge, and we're going to try to figure out a way that we can do a cost-effective implementation for people to find vulnerabilities in it in a realistic way that's not just like some sort of toy.
Our favorite young lady, misconfiguration.
Yes, misconfiguration. That's right. And then the military personnel, right? There's major malfunction.
Right.
Then there's what is it? General failure, I suppose, right?
Or general protection.
General protection.
And his faults.
Yes.
All right, so you've touched
panic.
Right. You've touched on infrastructure, and that's really sort of the last thing I really wanted to talk about, since we are a show for sysadmins. You've mentioned Google Compute a number of times. Like, what does the underlying infrastructure of this thing look like without opening yourself up to people trying to abuse that?
Yeah. So it is this series of Debian-based images that sit in the Google Cloud, and have various little Dockers that run on top of them, implementing microservices, implementing those terminals. The Weddy terminals are actually, you're connecting into a Docker instance, and there are vast numbers of them, and they're spawned up as users use them. Oh, we're also going this year. We hadn't done it last year, but we're doing it this year, multi-world, because we need to scale this thing. I mean, we're thinking we might get 30,000 people. So last year, when you go in, there was a single world. So if Nate and Marc both logged in, and you had your little avatars, you could see
Nick.
each other.
And Nick. Don't
All
forget
three
Nick.
of you, right? You could see each other. You could talk to each other. That's a nice aspect of the game. That's really cool. But it limits our ability to support tens of thousands of people simultaneously. So we now have the ability to spool up multiple worlds and to add additional worlds to it. The thing of it is, you'll see other people in your world, but it might not be your buddy. Which is, that's kind of a bummer, but we need
Can you do it regionally?
I could ask the team if they could do it regionally. Then I think we are overweighted though for North America. So North America itself.
Call North America fat?
Well,
I mean, maybe.
maybe. Look, it's a holiday season. We got Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
A lot of us aren't going to have a lot of people over, and we're probably not going to cook less food. So yeah.
No, I mean, you have your routine, right? You got to cook the 24-pound bird, even if there's only 6 people.
I have a 20-pound turkey defrosting right now. But I like leftover turkey. I love leftover turkey.
Yeah.
Leftover turkey on squishy white bread with mayonnaise. Oh, man.
It's funny. This is the first year that I can recall that my wife and I are talking about what we're going to do with the leftover turkey before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
because we just know there's going to be too much.
You're going to eat it.
No, I mean, what exactly, or how are we going to eat it? Are we going to make turkey barbecue? Are we going to make turkey stew or soup, or
I think the answer is yes.
Yes,
everything.
all of them, right? All of them.
Turkey milkshakes. Get ready for it.
Turkey
That
milkshakes.
might be a little much. That milkshake will not bring all the boys to the yard.
You gotta get your protein somehow, right?
Turkey milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Oh boy.
Oh.
We were going to get some singing. Hey, I shared with you some idea of the technical challenges, right? I mentioned crypto and TMUX and this and that. I'd like to share a little bit more on the story. Not the
Absolutely.
Story, right? So from a story perspective, there's a couple of things that are going on now. So remember, Marc, this is new to you, but a villain wants to destroy the holidays, right? If you go back to like 2015, Cindy Lou Who, age 62, wanted to destroy the holidays. 2016, it was Doctor Who wanted to destroy the holidays. And they all have their different reasons for wanting to do this. 2017, it was Glinda the Good Witch, because she was trying to incite a war between Oz and the North Pole. 2018, it was Hans Gruber, essentially the Die Hard movie, everybody's favorite Christmas movie.
It's the best Christmas movie.
It is.
Die Hard and multiple versions of A Christmas Carol.
I already saw that argument cropping up on social media today.
It's not an argument.
I know.
It's a statement. It's
so
true.
2019, our villain was the Tooth Fairy. And she did it just out of jealousy. She was jealous that Santa gets all this attention and everything like that. So she tried to destroy it. But at the very end, the last closing scene of Holiday Hack 2019, the Tooth Fairy's in an orange jumpsuit because she's been arrested. She's going off to prison. and there's a little note that she dropped on the ground. And if you click on that note, the Tooth Fairy had written in the note that she was collaborating with Jack Frost. So we kind of had a cliffhanger. It's like in The Incredibles when Mole Man comes out at the end, you know, and they're like, oh, what are we going to do? So we've already told people who the villain is this year. It's going to be, well, Jack Frost. But here's the deal. So if you go back to Holiday Hack 2018, we hosted the video game. It was inside Santa's castle, so you hop around in the castle, but it got so crowded with so many 13,000 people.
Yes.
So 2019, yeah, it felt like one of these, you know, technical conferences where everybody's packed in. Not COVID friendly, right? Or
not at all. Not at all.
It's not social.
Fortunately, you didn't have VR with smell, because
yeah, right.
That would be terrible.
So anyway, we moved the venue last year from Santa's Castle to Elf University.
Mm-hmm.
Elf University, Elf U, we called it for short. It's the largest venue at the North Pole. At least it was, but it got pretty packed too. So Santa invested heavily over the last year in an expansion of his castle. So Santa's castle is now a lot bigger. We're moving back to the castle. It's still a little bit under construction. You might see some dust here and there, and you know, elves are wearing hard hats as they continue to work. But it's almost done. And Santa's super excited to invite, you know, 30,000 people from around the world into the castle. And he's going to kind of show you, you know, through the castle and such. I think people are really going to love it. So we're moving back to the castle. The other thing I want to tell you about is Santa. It's probably stress. You know, I mean, it's been a hard year. And then all the stress of opening this castle up. So Santa's behaving a little strangely. And you're going to have to look into that and figure out what's going on there. So that's what I wanted to share with you from what I've heard from what's going on at the North Pole. You know, moving back to Santa's castle, super excited about that. Santa behaving a little strange. That's weird.
Now, does Santa employ TARDIS technology? Like, is the castle the same size on the outside?
There has been a TARDIS in the last 3 or 4 Holiday Hack challenges. Usually Santa has one on his desk.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if he's employed that technology for his castle rebuild so that he doesn't have to expand the outside of it. Yes,
you will see stuff just like that. It's pretty cool. So there's really cool new stuff in the castle. It's got a big courtyard out back. It's got a new elevator that's pretty awesome. Just a whole bunch of little, you know, bells and whistles inside the castle. And man, this year's
literal bells, probably
literal bells,
jingle bells.
So in the past, we'd have like themes of the music so that the music all sounded sort of like a similar genre for the most part. You know, we did Electro Swing back in 2016, and we've done other things.
My favorite album.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. Thank you. So, but this year, the music is all very different. It's all based on the theme of the storyline and what's happening in the story. But we have this year types of music. We've got jazz. We've got rockabilly, we have muzak, we have blues, we have rap. So there's all these different musical genres. There's going to be some techno in there. You know, I think people are going to like the music this year. Just the variety of it, but it's all there. Oh, we have this just lovely, beautiful ballad that's going to be in this year's. So
power ballad.
It's I hesitate to call it a power ballad because they got such a bad reputation. But
yeah.
It's
with Frozen 2, you had Lost in the Woods.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Kristoff's power ballad. So, you know, maybe they're making a bit of a resurgence.
I think it's like a luscious, very sweet, kind-hearted ballad. Okay. Wait till you hear it. I think you're gonna love it. Yeah.
More of a Bryan Adams type thing.
I can say, and not Bryan Adams, but
I can say the raspy voice.
I can't say no raspy voice. It's a very sweet voice.
So we had.
It's totally free. You might as well just check it out. Oh, and you know, you can register right now. If you go to
You're an idiot if you don't check it out.
You should. I'm just saying. But holidayhackchallenge.com, it's all free. What you can do is you can register for the 2019 game. It's still up. If you register for that, we're going to copy over the whole database so that you'll be registered for 2020. Okay? So holidayhackchallenge.com, you can go there, click on, you know, the challenge, register. You can create your little avatar so you're ready to go. And you can even practice if you want, because we're going to launch second week of December. So that's still as we're recording this now, it's about 3 weeks off, I guess. Oh my gosh, we have so much to do, but we're making great progress, huge progress. But it's crunch time.
It's still Smarch.
Great. Yeah, right.
It's unbelievable that we're halfway through November.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
This year has been so
Still,
weird from a timing
really
perspective.
has. Yeah.
So there was one question in the chat that I wanted to throw out there, and I think I might know the answer already, but someone's asking if there's any chance of an official Discord or maybe Slack channel for folks to get together and discuss the challenge this year. I know a lot of groups make their own channels to talk about Holiday Hack. I guess they're looking to see if there's a central one.
We will look into that. We haven't in the past. Central Sec has a Slack channel that some of my team will pop in on and see what people are saying and such. So Central Sec has one of the best ones historically. I will take that under consideration. We might create a Slack channel for it. The issue is support. I mean, we're trying to get challenges running and everything, and people want extra hints and such. I love it when they help each other out, right? There's really, all we ask is don't post your answers before January 4th, okay? But you can tell people how you did things. You can talk to them. You can interact. You can give help. We want this to be a learning experience for the whole community. But we don't want somebody to just get the answers, So, but I'll take that under advisement. Maybe we'll create a Slack channel or a Discord channel and make it the official one. That shouldn't be too hard to do.
Yeah, right. And someone else runs it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I mean, look, we are a small team. We have 10 people, and we spend the whole year working on this. It's thousands and thousands of hours, and we do it as a gift to the community. And sometimes I joke with my team, and maybe it's not a joke at all. I say everything else that we do all year round, all the penetration tests, all the expert witness work, everything, all the cyber range work that we do all of that so we can feed our families, so that we can make Holiday Hack Challenge and give it away for free. So, yeah.
Well, I've probably told you this every time you've been on, but it's always a fun challenge. Some of the things I enjoy most about it is that social aspect, where it's like, I don't really know how to do this thing. Someone gives me a hint. I learn a little bit of something from it. I get through the challenge, and then someone else who has the same problem, like, I get a chance to give them a hint, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing that sticks with me about Holiday Hack. It's it's competitive, but not like a real prize heavy CTF, right?
Yeah.
Where people are being real tight-lipped. They're not sharing anything because they want to be the one at the top of the scoreboard at the end of the thing, right? So
we want people to just have kind of fun with it. Let me tell you about one other thing that we're doing this year. It's a brand new thing. And the idea came from somebody on my team. So what happened was last year we opened up the game, and people came in, and some people were brand new, and they're like, "What do I do?" And Lynn from my team was there, and she'd just say, "Oh, go over here and solve this challenge or check this thing out." And she's one person, so she was in there for a few hours, right? But it occurred to me, we need more people like that. We came up with the idea, Kringleconcierge. So it's KringleCon, and these are the Kringleconcierges, and they're essentially the Walmart greeters of Holiday Hack. So we've asked for volunteers to do this, and they sign up for 2-hour slots. And you're not doing technical support. You're not even giving hints. Remember, the elves give hints. You are just there. So if somebody comes in and says, "What do I do?" You kind of just say, "Well, check this thing out over there and go over here." And it gives it that human touch. It's an experiment for Kringleconcierges. If you know some people that would like to volunteer, or maybe some of your viewers who have played in the past, you really should be kind of familiar with how the game works. So if you played in 2018 or 2019 and you're interested in being a Kringleconcierge, you could email. Maybe it's best to do email to info@counterhack.com. Info@counterhack.com.
Info at Counterhack.
I'm going to be sure to add this to the show notes right now. So you're going to hear me tapping away on my keyboard for a minute here.
I tell you, I wanted to call them Kringleconsiglieres, but we decided Kringleconcierge was maybe a little
Look
better.
what they did to my boy.
I'm telling you.
My precious boy.
You said info at Counterhack?
Yeah, info@counterhack.com.
Okay.
I think I threw it in the Twitch chat because Jay Scar was asking how one can sign up to help.
Yeah.
That would be great. And again,
you got an epic from Jay Scar. He's
nice.
a good guy.
So just there's 2-hour time slots during the second or third week of December, just to help new people figure out where to go.
Click on the fat red guy.
he will be there. He's looking pretty good, I gotta say.
I actually just registered.
Nice, thank you. It means a lot to me, Mark. Thank you.
Nice.
And
Now, if only we could get together, I would help you out on the challenge. But I guess we'll have to do it virtually.
Yep. There you go. There you go. Cool.
All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Did you want to talk about anything cool in your office, or should we get the show moving?
Well, let me just tell you one little thing that I did over the summer that's kind of neat. I do a lot of home automation stuff, and I've written probably
I can't even imagine.
30,000 lines of code that control this office, so it can do all kinds of crazy stuff. But one of the things that I did this summer was I have a 1951 porthole TV. Let me see if I can turn this. Do you see the TV over there?
That's
awesome.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
To the right of the suit of armor?
It's beside the suit of armor. Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah. And then that's Einstein on the wall, the picture of Einstein.
Nice.
Okay.
But anyway, that TV, in the past, I had a Raspberry Pi 2 connected to it. And, so I could, I could bring stuff up on it and, watch YouTube videos and things like that. But what I really wanted to do was to do something like Microsoft Teams or maybe Zoom or Google Meet. And then I really wanted to do Netflix. So, but the issue is, the Pi being an ARM architecture, a lot of the native executables for like Zoom and so forth, they run on an Intel architecture, right?
Right.
So, but the cool thing is I upgraded to a Raspberry Pi 4. And most of those services, including Netflix, including Google Meet, they have an entirely web-based interface as well. So if you don't use their client, and Zoom as well. So if you don't use their client, you could do it all via the web, but you need to have a browser on a piece of hardware that has enough performance to be able to do the streaming video.
Sure.
Pi 4 has enough performance to do that. It is so cool because it was a limitation of my previous TV infrastructure that I couldn't run those applications because I didn't have enough performance to do it. But now I do. And it's really cool.
Such a weird problem to have. I can't run Zoom on my 1950s era television.
Yes, exactly.
Because of ARM. Not
Because
because,
of ARM.
not because it's a 50s era television, but because of ARM, and an ARM can't emulate an Intel processor quick enough at that level.
Yes. Isn't that just crazy? So anyway, I got that working over the summer and I love it. It's just really that's been a neat
Do your family members ever just shake their heads?
Oh, constantly. The question is, when do they stop shaking their heads?
Okay.
Yeah, I was super excited about it and showed it to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, that's nice."
Oh, he did that thing again. Okay.
I assume is it black and white because it's TV?
It's black and white. Yeah.
So she's probably like, "Why the hell are we watching this in black and white?"
Yeah, really. We have a better TV downstairs.
So
what's going on?
Fraction of what this costs.
So you actually interface the Pi so that the tube in the portal is what's displaying it in the TV. So you didn't rip out the guts and put an LCD in there.
No. It's the original
RF modulator, right?
Yep, it's an RF modulator. That's what I do. So I go out. So check this out. I go out HDMI from the Pi, and then I've got an HDMI to RCA jack converter, and then I've got an RF modulator that does RCA jack to channel 3 or channel 4.
Nice.
Right? Do you remember back in the day, channel 3 and channel? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's how I connected my Nintendo to the TV.
On 4 to play the Atari.
No, it was always 3.
Depends
Not
on where
4.
you were, I suppose.
It just depends on the local culture.
It's really cool. I remember I went to a Best Buy to buy the RF modulator, and there was a kid behind the counter. He must have been 19 years old or something. And I said, "I'm here to buy an RF modulator," and he's like, "We don't have those." And I was like, "Do you know what one is?" He's like, "Not really, but we don't have one." I said, "It's like the old thing you used to have that you can switch channel 3 or channel 4." He's like, "Oh, we do have those." So,
it's fast enough
wow.
for you, old man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
So that was a fun little project I did over the summer. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty
you
cool.
You needed an RF modulator to hook your Apple II or your Commodore or your VIC to your TV set.
Yeah,
because buying a dedicated monitor was often too expensive, and then you'd kill your eyesight because you were using a TV.
Yeah, using a TV, 10 feet from it, you're squinting.
Talk about eye fatigue.
Not even 10 feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about better lighting for this room, especially for show night, right? So I put a light here to shine on me, but I'd like to get rid of this overhead light and have something that's a little better. And I keep thinking about like LED strips controlled by a Pi or something, so I don't have to like run around hitting the switches on show night.
Yeah,
One of these days.
Yep, you'll get to it.
One of these days I'll get there.
Well, it was great seeing you guys. Thanks again.
Yeah, this has been great. So folks, we're gonna go to our usual transitionary screen, and we're gonna say goodbye to Ed. And Ed, it's been great having you again, and hopefully we can have you on again. Maybe not wait for Holiday Hack. I'd love to have you on the show. How about every other week? You want to come on?
There we go.
Dang, but that would be every broadcast.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Want to be a co-host? Do you want to be a co-host on the Iron Sysadmin?
I get the feeling Ed's got enough going on that he can't be a co-host.
Things keep me busy, but I would love to come back again before next holiday for sure. So
I'm totally gonna Holiday Hack, man. I'm totally gonna do it.
You totally should.
I'm totally gonna.
Have fun.
All right, folks. So we'll be back in a few. We'll catch you, 5-10 minutes or so, and we'll be back. So see you then.
Something like.
Thanks. Bye.
Millions of stockings to fill on Christmas Day. You'd better write your letter now and mail it right away, because he's getting ready, his reindeer and his sleigh. You better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, town, town.
We is back, folks.
Hi.
Hope you enjoyed the music over the break. I saw some conversation going on about what is this that we're listening to. While we were talking to Ed, I remembered that I have the MP3s from the Holiday Hack Challenge 2016, and I figured that would be a fun thing to play during the transition there. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. That's a good taste of Count Ninjula. That
I did
Ed,
not enjoy it.
Well, you didn't get to hear it. Sorry.
Well, that's kind of why.
You can go back.
I probably
and
would have liked it.
You can go back and listen to it later. You really want
Maybe
to.
I will. Maybe I will. I did, however, register for Kringlecon, which actually is the registration for the event from last year.
Yeah. It is a good time.
And it is live.
It is a good time.
I popped in and there was Santa standing there. So
Yeah, right. So you get to hop into last year's challenge, right? And then
yeah.
Yep.
So I'll probably give that a spin around the block a little bit.
Pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, get used to like the UI and stuff. It's not complicated. It's basically a very simple web game that you can walk around and you can hit the terminals and you can see how the terminals look and kind of stuff like that. But
I am kind of dumb, so maybe doing that would be a good plan.
I don't know.
For real.
Aren't you the one that spends all kinds of time in like virtual reality games and whatever?
I did. Well, I've been known to, but yeah, truth.
All right, so this is the part of the show where we have announcements. Mainly an update on Patreon, which hasn't really changed from last show, but I'm going to read through them anyway. So,
which, by the way, it's not bad, right? I mean, we're very happy with our
patrons. Indeed. I'm just saying, you know, if you heard last week's show, this is going to sound very similar to last week's show because it's pretty much identical. I just copied it from the show notes from last week. And here it is again. So 20 patrons for about $87 a month, give or take the tax that Patreon takes out of that because, you know, whatever, they take some money out of that. And we've got, those patrons are rootisgod, Bruce, Robert, Matt, David, Solemn, Erwin, Trooper-ish, Linux Sys 666, gimpyb, Ryan, Marc with a K, DeMentor from PowerShellOnLinux, John the Nice Guy, Marc with a C, Julius, Andy, Jay, Charles, and our old friend 22532.
Shout out to 2!
Our oldest patron still. All right.
Have we ever met 2? Like, do we know anything about 2?
I hesitate to say he because I don't know, but they...
Well, okay, the generic he.
They were in a... I forget what Slack workspace I met them through.
Okay.
Was it the DerbyCon Slack? Might have been the DerbyCon Slack. Or was it the Defensive Security Slack? Either way, he and I chatted, and shortly thereafter, they became a patron. And that's really the last contact I've had. So I don't know if they still listen. Dude, if you... Or maybe not dude, person. If you still listen, please let us know. I'd love to hear from you, just to see, you know, what like, are you liking the show? You've probably been listening to every episode since the beginning, because, you know, they joined up with Patreon almost as soon as we opened it. So, yeah, like,
cool.
You know, 4 years worth of patronage, which is awesome. Totally awesome. And there's lots of other folks on this list that have been here for probably more than a year, 2 years even. So, yeah, good stuff. We appreciate every cent of that $87.
You're all awesome.
All awesome. All right. So, and speaking of helping out the show, if you don't want to just blindly give money through Patreon, you can also buy merchandise through Teespring. Teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. Maybe I'll do another promo code for Christmas time. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, Iron Sysadmin gear could make a great Christmas gift.
Indeed.
But don't give it to your spouse, if it's not what they really want, because otherwise you'll be hit.
Indeed.
I didn't want this stupid t-shirt. I wanted a diamond necklace. Perry the Platypus.
Just about every year around Christmas time. Was it Christmas time? Well, I think it was Christmas time. It's just the gift-giving seasons in general. My dad would tell me about how he made the terrible mistake of buying my mom a sewing machine for Christmas or her birthday or something one year, which is something he thought she would love, but she read it as, you've given me a thing to, like, fix your socks with. You know what I mean?
A sewing machine doesn't quite have the same domestic engineer sting as, say, a vacuum cleaner.
Right,
or a wash tub or something like that.
Right, but that's essentially the vibe that he said.
He probably was like, oh, she could be very creative with it.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
Stupid man, he wants me to darn his socks.
Now she owned that same sewing machine for like my entire childhood and used it a lot because she's like all about sewing to this day. She does quilts and whatever. So like it was a very practical and enjoyable gift, and yet
but he still caught crap about it because, hey, well, I've been married for a very long time, so I get it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, right?
I hear you, Nate's dad. I totally get it.
Yes, J Scar, or exercise equipment.
I'm right now collaborating with my middle daughter, Maggie, because if I'm going to get Sharon anything from Amazon, I have to use Maggie's Amazon account.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
Right, before we were recording, she's terrible about secrets. Like, she will peek. She will look at all the orders and be like, he totally got that for me, because she doesn't care about being surprised.
Yeah.
But I'm the guy who's like, no, you can't tell people what they're getting before Christmas, and the gifts only to be wrapped.
It's just not cool.
She does this thing where, like, there's gifts I didn't get around to wrapping. You can unwrap them with your eyes by taking them out of the bag. I'm like, oh, the baby Jesus is crying,
This is terrible. No.
Yeah.
So Mark, now that the camera's back on, I have to show you my multicolored apples. This is what happens when you put sprinkles on apples.
Very sketch.
But they taste fine. Nothing better than a sugary apple, right?
So were you able to trawl the depths of the internet for reviews, or we got nothing this time around?
No new reviews. And again, it's only been a week since our last show. So there were no new reviews last week either.
That's a valid observation.
Yeah. So here we are. All right. So I have two things, like nothing earth-shattering, to talk about in our chat section tonight.
I'm going to eat part of this pub mix, but I'll mute myself. So
go right ahead
in everybody's ears.
Crunch away on your crunchy pub mix. So, two things. One is an announcement I saw at work, which is public. I wanted to check that before I put it in the show notes. But you've heard of this thing called serverless, right? In fact, I think we may have talked about it on the show one or two times. And we may have even talked about, is there an open source alternative? Am I really stuck with Lambda? Am I stuck with cloud vendors that want to give me serverless stuff? Well, now you can run serverless code. Same, methodologies and whatnot. Functions running within an environment that can be called, right? Which is what serverless is all about, on OpenShift. So now there is an open source alternative. Let me open up the article here because I went and read it like 2 days ago, and now it's already left me. Knative Upstream Project. There was a name for this thing. I don't remember what it was. It's an operator for OpenShift. There was a name here. I don't remember what it is. Sorry, folks. The article is linked in the show notes. I'm not going to sit here and read it in front of you while we're doing the show live. But there you go. Serverless without the vendor login. And the other thing is a fun article that one of our patrons, John the Nice Guy,
John the Nice Guy,
wrote. Indeed.
We didn't coordinate that. We
yeah, right. No, that was planned. There was a countdown clock. You guys didn't see it or anything. It was just, okay, in 38 seconds, we're both going to say John the Nice Guy.
It was a playbook, actually.
Yeah, right. Playbook. It was an Ansible playbook. Anyway, it's about AWX, which is the upstream project for Ansible Tower, Red Hat's Ansible Tower. As many of you may know, Red Hat's products all generally have an upstream product that you can go and download and use for free, right? Because that's how we do things. It's all open source. Sure. So AWX is that equivalent for Ansible Tower. And this is basically his experience with setting up Ansible Tower, or not Ansible Tower, setting up AWX, right, and how it sort of helps lead you into the world of Ansible Tower. So here it is.
Pretty groovy.
It's a pretty good read.
Yeah, and Tower was not originally an open source piece of software. So Red Hat actually went and went through it and cleaned things up and released the source code to the AWX project.
If anybody's familiar with Red Hat's Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization, or now Red Hat Virtualization since it was rebranded at 4.x, that was the same deal. It was initially it was a closed source for sale product that I think it ran on Windows even, which seems so weird, right? It was like this big .NET blob thing that ran on a Windows server to control KVM hosts. And Red Hat bought it and subsequently open sourced it in the Overt project, and now we have Red Hat Virtualization /Overt.
And if I have my history correct, and I might not, so this is a disclaimer, Red Hat don't sue me or fire me. We might have actually decided to not open source it for a period of time.
Yes.
And there is a feisty internal argument, which I think is talked about in the open organization.
I got to read that book. It's right
it's
there on my shelf. I just need to read it.
It's a little fluffy at times, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, but it's a fun read. But yeah, there was a whole internal argument and struggle, and Red Hat ultimately decided, no, we're never going to do that again. Everything's going to be open source because it's the right way to do software.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, it was version 2.x of Red Hat Virtualization. Still had the .NET component. It still had the Windows requirement, right? And
I never used it.
And it, so I didn't use it at 2.x either. It was 3.x was where I decided, or the place I worked at anyway, decided it was time to finally go all in on Red Hat Virtualization because the Windows requirement went away. And I'm almost positive that's when it went open source. So the 2.x series was not open source, and the 3.x is when it did go open source. I could be wrong on exactly when that happened, but yes, that is pretty much the timeline. It was not open source for a while because it was not quote unquote ready to be open sourced, and then of course when they thought it was ready, off it went. So, but yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
thanks, John the Nice Guy. That was so nice of you to write that.
Indeed. One of the hosts of the Admin Podcast. If you guys haven't checked it out, we've talked about them plenty of times. But
I guess I should listen to their podcast one of these years. I've got so many podcasts on my phone that I generally don't listen to now.
Yeah,
because I'm never driving.
Yep. I have the same problem. I've got so many shows I don't listen to. It's like Darknet Diaries. I love that show, and I am probably 20 episodes behind at this point.
Oh God, tell me about it. And when I walk, I don't really want to listen to a podcast. I listen to music.
Mm-hmm. That's what I do too. When we walk or run, I'm not listening to podcasts. I'm listening to music. Yeah. Anyway, you got something about ASCII games.
Yeah, so I was dorking around on the internet the other day.
Never.
And I you know where I saw this? This was linked off of, I think, the Linux subreddit.
Okay.
And I didn't want to lose it. But yeah, this dude has compiled a cool list. Well, I don't know if he's a dude or if it's a bunch of dudes or if it's I don't know who it is. So there's
unknown entity on the internet.
Unknown entity. It's a list of ASCII terminal games, some of which are still, playable today, some of which have faded, some of which you require an emulator. And it got the nostalgia juices flowing. And one of them on there that I spent so much time playing on that old Apple II, a little one called Apple Track. Did you ever play any of the Star Trek games, the text-based Star Trek games?
I didn't.
No, they weren't always text-based. Well, basically the idea was you were the Enterprise and you were the captain of the Enterprise. You weren't actually the ship. You captained the ship. And on Apple Trek, it was a galaxy that was 8x8 sectors. And so you would go to each quadrant. No, you'd go to each sector or whatever. No, you had 8x8 quadrants, and then inside of the quadrants, the X and Y in there were sectors. So each space you were moving a sector or some nonsense like that. And so the Enterprise was the letter E. The Klingons were the letter K. And there were various there were planets and star bases and stuff that would get in the way, and you would pilot the Enterprise around and try and destroy all the Klingons, because that's what the Enterprise did, right? That's all the Enterprise did.
That's all it was good for, killing Klingons.
But you only had a certain amount of energy, and the energy would slowly recharge over time, where you could recharge by going to a star base. And you started with 10 photon torpedoes, and you burned energy to fire phasers. So it was this constant balance of, I don't want to use all my energy up, because when the Klingons damage me, first it damages the shields, and if the shields go down and they damage me, they could actually take out systems. And if your energy ever dropped to 0, you died. And this was in the days when you didn't save the game, and the game didn't care about your fifis. Like, you died a lot.
You died, start over.
Yeah. So we played a lot of Star Trek, me and my dad and his best friend Everett.
No, I mean,
the coolest thing was torpedoes, because when you'd fire a torpedo, it was an asterisk, the goober sign over the 8, and it would move across the map going do 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 do. And you could either have the computer fire them, or you could fire them manually. The problem is, if you let the computer fire them, the Klingons got a turn. If you fired it manually by entering the angle, you could fire it immediately. So it was a risk versus reward thing.
Yeah. So it's like
Apple Track was fun.
Like gorillas in space. Q-basic gorillas. You don't remember gorillas?
I never played that.
You played Apple Trek, but you didn't play gorillas. Gorillas. Okay. Do you remember Scorched Earth?
Yes.
With the tanks where you shot and you had to get the angle and the...
Baller.
Yeah, well, gorillas...
You had all the different ammunition.
Gorillas was sort of the precursor to that, except it was 2 gorillas on a cityscape, right? And then the buildings were in the middle, and they threw exploding bananas at each other.
Maybe I do remember that.
One of the first...
Scorched Earth, we played a lot of Scorched Earth at one of my jobs.
Yeah, it's one of the first,
and we legitimately played it while we were supposed to be working, which I should be embarrassed about, but I'm not.
No, you shouldn't.
So that's... Yeah, but if you want to see the type of gaming that I grew up on, and even still sort of enjoy, go ahead and check out that list of ASCII games.
Pretty cool stuff.
The other thing, this has nothing to do with computers, but occasionally I'll just take a night off from the technology itself and flip on a movie that has been in my queue.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this movie that came out, I think it was in 2016, 2017. I'm thinking 2017. And one of the guys starring in it is the same dude who plays Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, Batista.
Yeah, Batista.
Yeah.
And so let's just put it right on the table. He's not a good actor. And his female co-star is not a good actor either. In fact, there really aren't any good actors in the movie. But the premise is really intriguing, especially with some of the social unrest and stuff that's going on today.
Yeah.
And so the best way I could describe it, it's sort of like Red Dawn, but different.
Good.
And if I go too much into that, it's major story spoilers, because part of the charm of it is the same charm from Cloverfield. If you ever watch Cloverfield, you wanted to go into it, no spoilers, and it was awesome. But if you watch Cloverfield after your idiot friend who saw it told you too much about it, then you'd be like, oh, that was okay. Same as 10 Cloverfield Lane. I went into both Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane, spoiler free, and I was like, what? In both cases. So.
Guess I'll have to just sort of like have you seen the movie The Others?
No.
Okay, well that's another one where
similar idea.
If you've seen it, the movie takes on a whole different aspect. as it does the first time you've seen it, because there is a huge twist right at the end, kind of like the Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense. You've seen that, right?
I love the Cabin in the Woods, because I went into the Cabin in the Woods blind, and that movie slowly unpacks itself, and you're like, holy crap, this is cool. So the only thing about Bushwick is if you want to watch it legally, I think it leaves Netflix in a couple of days.
So watch it soon.
Watch it soon, or watch it semi-legally. But we at the
Semi-legal.
Iron Sysadmin do not endorse violations of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
I don't know if I can say that
Violators
for
will be
sure. Yes,
prosecuted.
absolutely. You shouldn't do that. It's bad. Not good stuff.
Yeah.
I finally started watching Picard, which
so good.
took me entirely
Started
too
slow.
long. Yeah. Well, no, I'm enjoying it already. I'm only on episode 3, I think. And I mean,
Picard,
just
the good stuff is is the second half of it.
I'm a huge fan of Star Trek: The Next Generation, mainly because I think Picard is one of the, in my opinion, there will probably be flame wars about this forever. In my opinion, I think he's one of the best captains of the Enterprise, because I just like the way he handles things. I like him as a character. So a show about Picard is right up my alley, and I just did not want to pay for CBS All Access to watch it.
So I'm gonna. I don't think this is a very big limb I have to go out on here, but I'm gonna say that Patrick Stewart is probably the best actor that's ever played a captain in a Star Trek series.
Could be.
That's not to take away any. I like Quantum Leap. Captain Quantum Leap.
Right.
And Sisko is kind of a badass. He's like a poor man Samuel L. Jackson in some ways.
Sisko is easily my number 2. He's second. He's second on that list.
Sisko's a cool guy, but I mean, Patrick Stewart is just he's just great. He's a good actor. He's just really a pleasure. And yeah, the first half of Next Generation season 1 is rough for me.
But
I can't.
I mean, so part of it could be timing, right? The first season of TNG was aired when I was like 8 or 9 years old, so I wasn't watching it a lot because it just wasn't geared for 8 or 9-year-olds, right? And I picked it up. I picked it up later when most of the series was in reruns, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have to slog through that first season to get good. I just started watching it when it was already good, and then went back to watch it. And going back to watch it, yeah, there's some rough edges and whatever, but you enjoy it because it's Trek.
Yeah, at least it's not the Big Bang Theory. There's that. Yeah, good point. No, I watched it live because it started when I was in college.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, there's
so there you go.
There's the age difference, I suppose.
Yeah, Tasha Yar, man.
Yep, poor Tasha Yar.
I like Tasha.
At least the actress comes back several times.
Yeah, she and the Romulan version of her. And sorry, you don't get a spoiler warning here.
No, right? The series has been off the air for like 20 years. I don't think you need to worry about it.
Isn't the Romulan version technically related to the Tasha from Yesterday's Enterprise? Or wait, was it Yesterday's Enterprise?
Honestly, I don't remember what
was the name of the episode where the Enterprise was at war. I want to say it was Yesterday's Enterprise, but that doesn't sound right.
Could be. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
Now I have to go watch the whole series again. Thanks, Mark.
Oh. That's not a bad. I got to Google.
Maybe
that's
somebody.
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Maybe somebody will.
I was kind of waiting
for
chat to save us, but Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah, but some of them are on that ridiculous delay on Twitch.
Oh no, that's it. Temporal Rift creates an alternative timeline in which the Federation and Klingon Empire is at war. Tasha's alive, and only Guinan can detect the timeline's been altered.
Oh, Guinan.
It is Yesterday's Enterprise.
Cool. Anyway, this has been Trek Talk with the Iron Sysadmin Podcast.
The Venn diagram is strong, man.
It really
Venn
is.
Diagram.
It is.
Nerds and Star Trek.
All right. So, anyway. Oh, I wanted to mention, you were talking about old games. The Internet Archive has a very cool selection of old video games that you can play through a web browser.
Absolutely. In fact,
So,
Appletrek might be one of them.
Could be. I remember, I may have told the story on the show already, and I don't want to name drop or whatever, but so Jason Scott is like the mastermind behind that whole, like, the concept where you can play these games through the Internet Archive. He worked for the Internet Archive. I used to see him frequently at DerbyCon. He was a DerbyCon guy that he would come just about every year. Eventually stopped for many reasons. Anyway, I was hanging out with him and a number of other folks at a thing we called MeadCon, where we'd all sit around and drink mead. And I actually got to beta test that web player because he's just like, here, check this out. And I'm like, I don't know, entirely too much mead and enough beer in that I'm like barely able to concentrate on the keyboard. And I'm playing like Bionic Commando on his laptop.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool though.
Yeah, there is Appletrek is on the virtual Apple too, but it's saying that only the ActiveGS whatever works only on Windows or Macintosh. And then it
Terrible.
apologizes to me.
Are
'cause
you
it's
on your
terrible.
Fedora machine?
Yeah, I am. I do this on my Fedora machine because I've got the dual monitors and these headphones. I like the Fedora machine for the Iron Sysadmin.
Cool.
But it's okay.
That means you're doing better than me because I'm on Windows.
Yeah.
I hang my head in shame.
So I'm just gonna put Appletrek right here in the show notes for folk who want to see it.
Cool.
That game again, my dad and I and his friend Everett, we spent many hours playing that on the Apple II.
All right, so we're gonna go on into, I don't know, it's kind of news,
you have
but
to hit a button?
it's kind of not. I am gonna hit the button. So
Button?
here we go. I just wanted to give you
Button?
guys a warning that it's not gonna be the news as usual. So here we go.
Oh no, it's staticking. That was pub mix. It was not static on your line.
Another weird looking apple I'm about to eat.
Yeah, you the man. Yeah, that was well. The purple button it matches Nate's purple apple slices.
Yeah, purple and blue, and it tastes kind of like sweet tarts. I don't know what kind of sprinkles these things are, but they're like little skulls. It tastes like
what
sweet
happens
tarts.
when you have little girls, man. Enjoy it.
It's what happens when a 6-year-old makes you dessert.
Because then they grow up soon enough and start to hate you. Oh,
Yeah,
wait, no,
that'll happen
that's not
eventually, I'm
actually-
sure.
That's not actually true. Mine don't. My girls get along with me.
No, I can remember my sister pretty much like absolutely rebelling against my dad in her teenage years. It
When
eventually
got her a
faded.
Sewing machine.
Yeah, right. All right, so we're going to talk actually less about news and more about social media in this section.
Yeah.
And this is almost like another main topic, I guess you could say. But it was something I really wanted to talk about, and we had Ed on tonight, so I didn't want to bump Ed to talk about this. And I actually have a guest lined up for our next show, I think. I have to check the schedule again. If you guys remember DeMentor, who talked about PowerShellOnLinux like a year and a half ago, or maybe longer, he's going to be on to talk about some home automation stuff, which is going to be fun. So I got to check back in with him and find out what the, when he can be on or whatever. But I think we planned on our next, I think it'll be the first show in December. Whatever, I'm rambling on about that. He'll be on soon enough. Anyway, I wanted to get this topic in while it was still kind of fresh. How many of you have seen the phrase on social media, "Come find me on Parler"? Because people are fed up. Well, anybody. You're the only one that can respond, though.
Well, the people can respond in chat.
Yeah,
I have seen it, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it right out there. I have a very wide set of friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got my friends who lean left, my friends who lean right, my tech nerd friends, my scout friend, whatever. They're friends across different spectrums. The ones who tend to lean right, tend to be conservative, they're the only ones that I see hitting Parler.
Right. So it's really, I mean, the movement, this whole like Facebook exodus has hit the news, like to the point where CNN, Fox News, and whatever, they're talking about this. And I thought it was a topic that was very valid for Iron Sysadmin because there's kind of a viewpoint that we might be able to hit that the mainstream media might not, and maybe people will find this valuable. So this Parler is what, or I should say Parler, which by the way is how they intended it to be pronounced, but
Then they shouldn't have put an R at the end of it.
I know. I don't know if that has something to do with the French spelling of it, because it is a French word. Whatever. We're not going to argue about that. But the sort of the implications of jumping to a social media network, sort of like Parler, right? So first of all, I looked up some information. I even set up an account on Parler just to sort of look around and see what the hell it's all about. And this is basically what I have to not report necessarily, but just talk about. And Marc, at any point, if you have something to interject here because you have an opinion on it, feel free. That's the whole point of this. I want us to sort of discuss.
I'm sure I'll quip. Yes.
I want us to kind of discuss
I'll
this.
alternate between quipping and eating my pub mix.
Right. I was hoping we'd have Jason again as well, because I'm sure he's got strong feelings about this. So
No doubt.
So Parler, I included a link to the Wikipedia entry for Parler, and that includes like when it was founded, some history about where it came from, who founded it, stuff like that, what their intentions were, and up to the current day, what it's currently being used for, and this exodus that we're about to start talking about. So like I said, it was originally supposed to be pronounced Parler. I don't know why they spelled it the way they did. I guess if you're trying to spell it, the French spelling for Parler has an R in it, so to register a domain, you can't put the funny accents in whatever, so it ended up Parler. So here we are. Everyone pronounces it Parler because that's how it's spelled. They're pronouncing it like parlor, like the thing that is inside your front door when you walk in, right? The parlor.
Or the parlor. It's the room where your mom has her sewing machine.
Right, the room. Just circle it right back there. Right, so
I do circles, man. You know that.
Right, right. So like I said, I set up an account just to sort of poke around and see what it was about. The web UI, and I didn't set up the mobile account or the mobile app on my phone, so maybe that's a different experience. But the web UI in a browser reminds me a whole lot of where social media was 10 years ago. Basically, the whole look and feel of it is very basic. The thing I did like though, so go set up a new account on pretty much any social media network. And when you first log in, you're just like inundated with content, right? Whether it's news or ads or whatever. Parler didn't have that. Like literally my timeline is empty because I don't follow anybody yet. They didn't immediately start forcing ads at me. They didn't start telling me they didn't start showing me popular tweets or, parlays, they call them. They didn't start any of that. It's literally blank. So I feel like if I were to start following people, I'm literally going to see the people I've followed and not a whole bunch of extraneous content that maybe I don't care about, right? Which is kind of a good thing, I think anyway, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here because there is some negative connotations with this service, right? So I'm going to cover some of the good and some of the bad. There's no filtering and very little moderation, right? So this is why folks claim to be going to Parler now, because they're getting sick of tweets and Facebook posts being quote unquote fact checked or censored, right? Now, this is kind of a tricky subject, I think. Social media, until about a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, didn't care about fact checking. They didn't care about censorship. They didn't care. All they really tried to stop were things like flat-out hate speech and pornography and ads, right? Unless you pay for the ads. Because if you pay for the ads, they're okay. But if you're not paying for the ads, they're not okay. So in a lot of ways, Parler feels like old social media, which is what I was kind of alluding to. Before the days where there were ads all over the place, before the days where posts were filtered and content was blocked because people's feelings were hurt. And this is what a lot of people like about the network, right? They want an unfiltered experience, right? Now, that has good and bad. The good, of course, would be if you don't want a filtered experience. The bad would be there's going to be hate speech. There's going to be nasty things shared across Parler. And I think that can be a problem.
So, I guess here's the thing, right? I come from a time with the internet when not everybody necessarily needed to be all on the same platform. The idea that everybody's on a handful of major things that everybody else is on is a relatively new phenomenon in the age of my digital experience.
Right.
And I think what bothers some people, and I get it, is that why do Facebook and Twitter, who are the two big ones, at what point do they have a responsibility to moderate their content when it's not an outright violation of some very basic things that everybody agrees is bad? So, for instance, pornography, most people agree, is not socially acceptable. Most countries go through great lengths to protect the personal information around children, although the American soccer mom is the worst at violating that with the pictures that she puts up every friggin' day on Facebook, right?
Yep.
But I think people don't like the idea that Twitter or Facebook are the final arbiters of what is true, especially around topics where it's not necessarily a completely black and white thing. So if you take the election we're going through right now, right? Mathematically speaking, Biden probably won the election, right? But there's legitimate legal processes going on, and the Trump campaign is allowed to take those steps. And the idea is that if you were to just totally try and shut that down and shout that down, that makes people faster. So when people are posting things on Twitter or Facebook and they're getting automatic flags on their posts saying, this post is essentially BS because, the Associated Press has called the election for Biden, that gets these folk upset.
Yeah.
Now, and it's valid, by the way, because the way the Associated Press does not get to actually make the final decision. The Constitution lays out how we actually elect the president.
Weird.
And that hasn't all played out yet.
Right.
So now Green 6789 makes a valid point. Parler has become a safe space for conspiracy nuts because most people aren't going to call people out on their bullshit. I guess the question is, have we become a people online who can't even have a civilized disagreement anymore?
Right.
Like, I find myself having to try not to respond to everything that I see on the social media that I disagree with. Wrong or right, whether I disagree with it. Yeah. It's like that XKDY. What are you coming to bed, hon? I can't. Someone on the internet's wrong.
Yeah. XKCD, you mean? Just
XKCD,
just like Nick. You were sharing your XKDY with Nick.
That's that's the strip on Parler. It's all right-wing nerd humor. No. So in one sense, if you want to talk to people who are going to share your opinion, then let them have it. Let them have Parler. Here's the other thing about humans that you might have noticed, Nate. We're kind of tribal sometimes.
Yep.
That goes back a long time. Being tribal, we're most comfortable when we interact with a couple of dozen people who have a similar goal in life, who ideally do the same types of things we do. And when people who look different or do other things come in, that I think is an instinct that fires off. We get uncomfortable because we think we're maybe going to be eaten by a lion or captured and enslaved or whatever. And part of the struggle sometimes is getting the level of maturity to fight that tribal impulse. It's hard. It's hard to sometimes go outside of your tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this year has been a bitch. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah. Yes, it has. Between the stresses around COVID and of course the election and just everything that's transpired in the past 4 years, the whole country is very divided. And it's really now it's coming through in social media, right? It's almost getting to the point where you have like average people, right? Who are just like, okay, I'll be on whatever social media network I want. And then you have like the far left and far right that are almost picking echo chambers, right? So, and that's one of the problems that I was going to bring up with what I see Parler becoming, right? So, first of all, I want to say that I am all for competing social media networks. I think that Facebook has gotten to the point where it is so large, there are so many people there, that there's nothing that it can do correct. There will always be arguments, there will always be strife there will always be anything you post there that is even the slightest bit controversial, or maybe not controversial at all, will be met with argument. Because no matter what you post, there's going to be somebody there that doesn't agree with you, right?
But here's the thing about Facebook. Am I cutting off your thought, by the way? Because I don't want to do that.
No, go ahead, speak. Speak, Marc, speak. Oof.
I need to eat. I need to drink.
Yeah.
I need to have human contact with like my family and friends and things like that. I don't friggin' need social media. So I think it's okay for people to just walk away from it if it's not of any value to them. Facebook doesn't need to be successful.
I don't
if
Facebook
imploded and died, that would be fantastic in a lot of ways.
I don't feel like there's enough people in this world that think they can actually live without it.
Well, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
But and so the thing is what I don't think we want, what I don't think a lot of people want is for Facebook, Twitter, social media to become essentially another branch of government. You know?
Yeah.
Like the press is supposed to be that fourth branch of government, the fourth estate.
Mm-hmm.
And the press, you know, Green's talking about critical thinking in school. I was born in '66. When I went to school and we learned about the press and stuff, you asked the 5 W's: how, what, why, when, where.
Right.
Just the facts, ma'am. And we've moved away from facts to feelings and opinion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And social media's got the same problem as the 24-hour news cycle. It's a hungry beast that wants endless content and it prefers controversy. Yeah, The Circle. The Circle is a great movie on Netflix. Hermione is in it, if I remember.
Oh.
Yeah, she's sometimes scantily clad, but you know, never fully nude. And it's
Is that a selling point?
Actually depends, right? It's probably a selling point because it's a fairly safe movie to watch in mixed company. Now I got all distracted. Jay Scar, was that the one with Tom Hanks in it? Was he in The Circle? I mean, we've got a delay.
Yeah, now it's going to be 30 seconds before he can respond.
I haven't watched the social dilemma yet.
I haven't seen that.
And
either.
I should watch it, but I don't want to watch it because I think it'll make me angry.
Maybe. So, I mean, have you read Ready Player One?
Yeah, I've read Ready Player One.
That's
social media you don't have a choice about.
Right. So this is similar, in my opinion, right? This is similar.
Thanks, Krakow.
There you go.
Krakow.
So what happened with the virtual world, the Oasis, in Ready Player One is kind of the beginnings of what we're seeing if you were to game it all the way to the end, right? With social media, where it's becoming the society that matters, right? And that's kind of scary when you consider that not only is it the society that matters to people, because that's where they're looking for opinion, that's where they're looking for news, that's where they're looking for, their marketplace to buy and sell things, that's where they're looking for what restaurant to go eat at, right? It's like this closed system almost, where all of that information is in one place. So that's where people go, right? 3-4 years ago, right? If you wanted to buy or sell something online, where would you go?
Well, probably eBay.
eBay, right? Today, how many people even know that eBay or Craigslist is a place they can go? They just go to the Facebook Marketplace. That's where they do all their buying and selling through.
If I want to buy something, my first stop is actually Amazon, but I see your point.
No, I mean like a used thing. Like I have a thing I'm trying to sell, or I have a thing I want to buy used, right? They go to the Facebook Marketplace because it's right there and it's in their face, right? Well, what happened with the Oasis in Ready Player One? Yes, it's right in their Facebook. What happened with Ready Player One was eventually the outside world and the government that governed it and whatever became irrelevant. Because what mattered was what was happening in the Oasis, right?
Right. The Oasis coin was the currency that mattered.
Right. And the Oasis was, in that case, the Oasis was run by a company who valued people and valued their freedom. And that's the way they ran the place. And the whole book was about how, this profiteering company wanted to take over the Oasis and turn it into a profit thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what you have with Facebook is it's already owned by someone who's just trying to make money and keep you addicted, right? And it's turning into your one-stop place on the internet for stuff, for anything, for content, for news, for whatever. And now all that content is starting to be curated, not just to show you what they think they want you to see, but to tell you what's true and what's false. And maybe they have the best intentions. Maybe they only want to make sure that what they're sharing for you is true. But eventually, if we become dependent on what Facebook says is true and false, and we don't question that, right? Now all of a sudden Facebook can slip in whatever they want. Now I'm not saying they do. I'm not saying that they will, but they could. Right? And that's the thing that worries me. And I'm not saying that Parler is the solution to that. The point of tonight was to basically I don't know, let's sort of let people know what they were getting into if they do in fact want to jump ship to something like Parler.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a bit passionate there.
No, that's good because this is important. A Red Hatter on one of our internal mailing lists, this was a couple of months back, made he said, I believe social media is the greatest evil inflicted on mankind in the past 30 years. And I read that and my brain said, are you kidding me? And then I thought for a few seconds and I said, whoa, actually, maybe he has a point.
Yeah. You could be right. I mean, social media. So, and I'm seeing stuff on social media that is not new, right? Like the trends that you see there, right? The arguments, the flame wars, the people that are outright dicks, the people that are trying to spread conspiracy theories. This all existed since the dawn of when we started communicating online, and probably further back than that. But I don't remember that long ago.
But in the good old days when I was a kid, if you wanted to have a conspiracy theory, you needed a mimeograph machine or a cheap looking magazine.
Right. It was a lot harder. It was harder to find the content. Now I remember when I was like a teenager questioning everything, searching around the internet trying to find weird conspiracy theories and information about aliens and whatever, right? And it was out there. It was certainly out there. But you could tell that these people were crackpots, right? You'd go to their website or their zine or whatever, and you could tell they were just completely insane.
Yeah, I
Now it's
found the guy who
harder to
swore
tell.
He had built a time machine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he swore he had built a time machine, and then it was. I think Napoleon Dynamite, the time machine that Uncle Rico buys in that. I'm pretty sure the guys who wrote that movie found that same guy's website. 'Cause it was probably 7 or 8 years later, and it was too close to what the guy on the internet had described.
That's funny. But yeah,
Look out
it's
the crystals.
so the problem now is that social media is in everybody's pocket, right? It used to be when it was online communication or when it was in low budget publications or whatever that you had to go buy at the newsstand or whatever. It wasn't so easy and accessible. Say it was a magazine, you'd get it once a month or once a quarter, right? And you'd have to go to the newsstand and buy it and bring it home with you and then read the thing and digest it in your head. And you couldn't immediately go and converse with everybody about it, right? Now on social media, if someone has a crazy idea like, oh, Bill Gates is trying to inject us all with tracking chips, regardless of how feasible any of that is, you get like 1,000 people that are just like, oh yeah, that's totally what he's doing. That Bill Gates guy, he's evil. And then you have people burning down 5G towers over it, right? So, anyway, that was kind of a rant.
It was. I mean, it wasn't a bad rant, but it was a rant for sure.
But my point is, I am all for what I would love to see, to be honest, is some manner of decentralized social media. And I've been saying that for years. There was a project several years ago called Diaspora, which did this. It never got traction. There's a project now called Mastodon, which does it. It doesn't have the traction. There's
decentralized social media seems like very counterintuitive.
Well, no. So the idea is,
what was the Google social media network?
That was Google Plus.
Yeah, remember Google Plus?
Yeah. No, so
with your circles.
Decentralized social media, the idea is that you can, or say a group of people can run their own node, and that node can communicate with other nodes.
Okay.
Right? So the idea is that your information is stored on your node, and it doesn't have to be shared with anybody else, right? So in the Facebook world, that you don't have that control. You're on Facebook, you could put any data you put there, they're going to use for something. They're going to use it for advertising. Sure. They're going to use it against, essentially against you, right? With decentralized social media, that becomes less of a problem. And in fact, you could theoretically have decentralized social media that is disconnected as well. So if you wanted just to run a small community that doesn't have any interaction with anybody else, you could just run it, right? Now, that kind of defeats the purpose of social media.
In my day, we would call that a bulletin board. I started my digital gaming experience in the days when you'd set up a BBS.
Yes, not a
BBS in the dial-in format, but like a web-based forum, like a web-based bulletin board. Right?
Well, there is. Well, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but there is work to take some old BBS software, and I envision that it could become a decentralized social platform. The problem is, with any of these, whether it's Mastodon, which is fully baked and is out there and you can go get it today, or Diaspora, which has died off, is adoption. The problem is that the behemoth in the room, Facebook, doesn't want to work with any of those things because they don't want people to leave. They don't want people's data to be anywhere other than on their systems, right? So you end up with, like, hey, this is a really cool thing. And the nerds might do that, but mom and dad or, your next girlfriend or whatever are going to be over on Facebook.
Yeah. So I guess the question comes down to, I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld, the TV show Seinfeld.
Yeah, I watched some Seinfeld.
So I forget what the episode was, but I think there was one point where they were considering bringing a new friend into the group. And Jerry's like, no, I can only handle 3 friends at a time. Right?
Okay.
You can, and again, I think honestly, it's okay to not be on some massive giant platform with the majority of the planet. It's okay to have these smaller communities that are just, a closer knit group of friends.
But
Or
what
just a
if
closer?
what if you have 3 friends and that's all you can manage and that's all you care about? Now that's obviously a very small scale thing, and only 2 of them want to join you on your platform. How do you communicate with the third one? I mean, yes, there's ways to communicate with the third one, but they're not invested in your social network, right? So, I mean, take that a little bit larger scale. You know, mom and dad are on Facebook, and your sister's on Twitter, and you want to use Mastodon, right? Well, you can't. Now, all of a sudden, all the pictures of your kids that you're sharing on Mastodon, your mom and dad aren't seeing, your sister's not seeing.
Yeah, no,
Right,
dude, I get it, and I have a Facebook account, and I'm on it way too much. I'm sort of, I'm the hypocrite right now.
No, I agree, right? So I do the same thing, right? There was a point where I actually deleted my Facebook account. I actually joined Facebook probably 2007, 2008, whatever, when it was still kind of new. And then I got sick of it then, and I deleted my account in like 2009 or 10, and then came back, right? Now the timeline's probably off. I think it was more like 2009 or 10 I joined, and then it was like 2012 or 13 I left it. I don't remember. But then I rejoined, and I've been there ever since because everybody I wanted to talk to was on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
I just don't.
That's a critical mass thing, right?
Now here's the thing, and I realize a lot of people probably say things like this, and some of them might be deluding themselves when they say it. But I mean it when I say this. I don't look towards Facebook for wisdom. I don't look to Facebook for truth. I look to Facebook for communication with friends and family, and
Right.
for when Chuck Marshall posts hilarious memes of Baby Yoda.
Yes.
Right.
And I agree with you.
I'm not going to look to Facebook to try and guide me morally or anything like that, or to solve the big problems. Now, I will occasionally post an almost rant on it because I feel I can influence some people, like the people who deny stuff around COVID. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I go on vacation, and I will shut my social media off. Like when we went to Disney, or when we've been on the cruises,
Mm-hmm.
I totally check out, and it's actually wonderful. It's amazing. When I was in Maine on the canoe trip with the crew, I didn't have a cell signal for I think 7 or 8 days, and after the initial 24 hours,
the withdrawal.
the withdrawal, right? I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
The only communication device we had was what I jokingly called the distress beacon. And I'm totally serious. We had this. It was a communication device that had, like when you do the cool, you can't accidentally press the button stuff. Like there's a process you have to go through to like open it and unlock it and then press the button.
Yeah.
It has a button that if you press on it, it does a burst. I think it might use a satellite, might not. The company then sends a helicopter to that location because it's a life or death situation.
Right. So you don't press that because you ran out of milk. You press that because someone's drowning or has drowned.
So the only thing I requested was that, assuming I wasn't the one who was incapacitated or dead, I wanted to be able to press the button on the distress signal.
You wanted to summon the helicopter.
Yeah. But that was the only method of communication with the outside world up in Maine.
Yeah.
During that canoe trip. That was awesome.
The canoe trip I was on through Canada, we didn't have one of those. We could have all been eaten by bears and nobody would have known for days.
Yeah, well. So
I don't know that such things existed then, at least not for common consumption.
They probably didn't. And it was a couple $100 to buy it. Like the unit bought it. And you basically have a subscription to it. Like, your subscription to Red Hat Enterprise Linux. I guess what I would just say is that I think it's up to an individual to use social media responsibly. Just like, just like alcohol, just like driving, just like, junk food or or anything that has, or just regular food, right? Anything that has a potentially sex, anything that has a potentially, consequence,
Cheesesteaks.
good and bad, right? And you gotta understand what you're getting into. And I think educating people, and I don't think you can rely on the government educating people. I don't think you can rely on other institutions educating people. I think, if you're a parent, you got to talk to your kids. If you have friends and family who will look up at you as a technical mentor, as the nerd, yeah, they look to you when their printer is broken. Well, take advantage of that technical street cred, and say, hey, some of the stuff on social media is actually not, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. My wife and I actively joke about that now. Like, she'll tell me something like, did you read that on Facebook? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, you sure that's true? Well, it's on the internet.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Just like the old, it was on TV, it has to be true, right?
She knows. Well, our grandparents, bless them, that, Walter Cronkite said it. It has to be true.
Right. Right.
And
however,
when Walter Cronkite said it, it probably was.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I was going to say. However, Walter Cronkite comes from a time when news anchors were expected to tell you the truth as they believed it.
Right.
Right.
Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity, Don Lemon. Yeah. Yeah. None of them could even polish his shoes. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're all characters now.
It's like expecting like legitimate news from someone like Rush Limbaugh, who has fully admitted he's an entertainer, right? He has said this to people, and yet people believe him as though he's a newscaster.
Because he's on TV.
Right.
It can't be on TV if it's not true.
Right. Right. Totally.
So 9:05. How long did you want to go on?
Yeah. Right. So I guess at any rate, to summarize, I just want to say, it seems very much like...
Good night, Jay Scar.
Like,
have a nice dinner, Jay Scar.
Yeah, right. It seems like Parler had good intentions and my kids are screaming about something. I don't know what. Maybe the house is on fire. When the smoke alarm goes off. Parler seemed like it had good intentions when it was started. It was meant to be a social network that did not have the problems that Facebook does, in that it wasn't as heavily censored, it wasn't as heavily quote-unquote fact-checked, right? And it was basically a place where you're supposed to be able to speak freely. It is very quickly turning into a ridiculously far-right echo chamber where all the conspiracies and white supremacists hang out, and that's a problem. Now, that can change simply by more people with a more moderate approach to the world joining Parler. But is that going to happen now? I don't know. The news is already painting it as a place to go if you want to hate on Jews and you want to hate on black people and you want to be a conspiracy theorist. And that's how it's getting portrayed, and I think that enough people believe it now that you're not going to find much more than people that agree with that on Parler. I can tell you that right now, when I logged in and set up that account, it shows you a bunch of trending hashtags, just like Twitter does. If you click on any of those, it is just full of like the worst kind of spam. Like the clickbaity sex spam is basically what it's full of.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
So if you want to go on Parler, be my guest. I don't feel it's my job to try and get on there and change it.
No, and I'm not really suggesting that people do, but I am.
And I didn't say you were suggesting that, but I'm just like, so Parler's where you can go hang out if you want to chill with some actual Nazis. Is really
that's kind of what it's turning into, and that kind of concerns me, right? That place exists.
I'm not a fan of Nazis,
Yeah,
I'm German. I take it personally.
So at any rate,
we fought a war about that, right?
I do think it would be great if we all left Facebook for something other than Facebook that wasn't quite so draconian about, like you are our product, not our customer.
or if people would just they don't have to leave Facebook, but in their life, they should have Facebook placed in an appropriate level of importance.
Yeah, but even if you use it sparingly, in a way that doesn't enrage you daily, which is essentially how Facebook got for me at one point. It's still a data mining, like,
Well,
privacy
that's
nightmare, right?
That is
so
sure possible. That's...
moving to something like Mastodon, where there is a decent user base now, right? And just using Mastodon as an example, maybe there's a better option out there. It's one I know about. There is a user base there, mostly IT people, from what I've seen. Maybe if every time someone said, I'm sick of Facebook, people like us said, hey, there's another option right over here. Maybe run your own node. Maybe set it up in a way that, you can let your friends and family trust you because they know you. Because expecting everyone to run their own would be kind of insane. Which is kind of how diaspora was supposed to work. Everybody was supposed to have their own pod in their basement because, that's feasible. Grandma's going to run a diaspora pod.
Don't be smack talking on grandma.
Maybe grandma is a tech wizard. I don't know. Most grandmas aren't.
We're getting to the point where there's going to be grandmas who are tech wizards.
You're right. All right, so this has been a fun conversation. If you think we got something wrong, feel free to reach out. You can find us on Twitter or Facebook. Just look for the Sysadmin Podcast. You can watch us on the second and fourth Thursday of just about every month, except for this month and probably next month, because I think next month falls on Christmas Eve or something. So we're probably going to move that one. You can watch us live on either YouTube or Twitch. The links for both of those are in the notes for this show. And if you want to chat with us, you can do so via the Matrix community. There's a link for that also in the show notes, or if you go to ironsysadmin.com, it's in the menus there for the community. And with that, if you want to support the show, feel free to do so via Patreon or by heading on over to our Teespring shop. Again, can you guess where the links are? In the show notes.
The show notes. Yay, the show notes. Yay!
So it's been fun tonight. Good conversation. A lot of fun with Ed Skoudis. Go check out Holiday Hack. I'll make sure to put a link to that, which I don't think exists currently in the show notes, but I'll make sure that gets added before the show gets published. And if you want to be a Kringleconcierge, hit up info@counterhack.com. And with that, folks, I think we're going to call it a night. I just have to find the end screen. So go ahead and say goodnight, Marc.
Good night, Marc.
Good night, Marc. All right, folks, we'll catch you next time.
All the heart to my Iron Sysadmin peeps.